Last week we talked about what is truth. We asked that great question, right? Remember Jesus standing in front of this guy named Pilate, a Roman governor, and he finally threw up his hands and said, what is truth? Because he knew about the Roman government. He knew all of what the Romans were saying. Over on this side, he had all the intellectual, religious people and what they were saying. And then in front of us stood this man named Jesus. And finally, Pilate threw up his hand and said, what is truth? What a great question. What is truth? And we explored it, we dug into it, realizing that truth really has to start with Jesus, right? It has to be a foundation of Jesus because Jesus said, I am truth. And then it has to make its way through the Word because the Word is truth. It teaches what is true. And then not only that, what Jesus gave us and what the Father gave us as a gift was the Spirit of truth, right? He lives inside of us. You can know truth. Let's go to our key verse. Let's go, and we're studying it, we're digging into it, we're unwrapping it, okay? John chapter 8. John chapter 8, let's dig in. Look what it said. Jesus said to the people who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you what? Say that word, remain. It is the key to everything. Listen carefully. It's the key to everything. You can be in the Word, but if you get out of the Word, it's gonna lessen. The key is to remain. Look what he says. If you are my disciples, if you what? Remain faithful to my teachings. If you stay there, don't give up, don't give in. But if you remain faithful to his teachings, Jesus says you will know truth. You can know truth today. As you're sitting here, if you missed last week, you can go back and check it up on it. But listen, you can know truth. You can understand truth. You can live in truth. You can experience truth. You can know truth. Don't be listening to the social media. Don't be listening to society and culture that says you can't know truth. Or truth is always changing. Truth is up one day, down the next. And truth is this and truth is that. Listen, you can know what truth is. And once you begin to experience it, once you begin to live it, once you begin to digest it and take it inside of you, guess what it will do for you? It'll bring freedom. That's what Jesus said. Look what he said. And the truth will what? Set you free. So the question we have to ask ourselves today, and it's a great question, is what is truth? What is freedom? What does freedom mean? What does freedom look like? How can we be free? It starts with truth. We got to know the truth, and then it'll lead to freedom. But what is freedom? Now, I want to suggest to you two different streams we're going to look at today, kind of two different lanes I want to head into. And the first one is this. Look at the definition that I put on the screen. Freedom is the absence of believing lies. You see, some people think that freedom is the absence of issues, or the absence of problems, or the absence of chaos around us, or freedom is kind of, well, there's an army over here, and we're not part of that. No, it has nothing to do with that. Really, what it has to do with is freedom is internal. Listen, freedom is the absence of believing lies. You know how the enemy operates? Lies, half-truths, telling you just a little bit for you to know, a little bit. Well, that sounds good, but it's not God. That's how he operates. How do we know this? Because Jesus told us. Look what he said. He says, why can't you understand what I'm saying? He was talking to people who were listening, but they weren't understanding, right? Why can't you understand it? It's because you can't even hear me. That's what Jesus said. You can't even hear me. Why? For you are children of your father, the devil. That's pretty harsh, right? In John chapter 8. I mean, he was coming to these people and saying, listen, the reason you can't understand this is because you're on the wrong side. You're listening to your father, the devil. He loves to do evil things. He was a murderer from the beginning. He's always hated the truth because there is no what? Truth in him. And when he lies, it's consistent with his character. For he is a liar. He's the father of lies. Guess how the enemy operates? Lies. Guess what the opposite of freedom is? Believing lies. When you believe a lie, that you're no good, you're worthless, you have no gifts, you have no talent, you have nothing to give to the kingdom, you have nothing to give to Jesus, you have nothing to give to the church, you have nothing of value in this earth, you don't know your purpose, you don't know your reason for living. When you begin to believe that, you begin to live it. And when you begin to live it, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You see, true freedom is the absence of believing lies in your life. So we have to go back to know, well, what is truth, right? What is truth? What is real about who I am and about whose I am? You are a child of God. You're a child of God. How do I know this? Well, it goes back to our foundation of truth because the Word tells us that's who you are. Let's look at the Word and let it unravel before you. Look what it said. But to all who believed him and accepted him, he gave them right. What? The right to become who? That's who you are. You see, if you believe the lie, my past, it disqualifies me. If you believe the lie and go, I'm no good. If you believe the lie, say, I'm not really holy. I'm not really righteous. I can give you a whole list of things I've done. I can give you a whole list of things I'm into. Listen, we've talked about if you're a child of God, you're holy. Now, you may be sitting there going like, well, I don't feel very holy. Some days I don't either. But what's your position? Your position in Jesus is holiness. It's who you are. It's whose you are. You're in him. He's in you. The problem is when the enemy comes and whispers, oh, do you know what you've done? You know what you've seen? You know what you've experienced? That disqualifies you. And pretty soon we take that in and we go like, well, maybe that's true. Maybe that's true. Now, I'm not sitting here going like, well, you do whatever you want. I'm just saying we've got to understand and start with the foundation of truth of who we are. We are children of God. And if we don't understand that, we'll believe lies. And if we believe lies, we'll live a certain way. And pretty soon we're just kind of out there doing our own thing, believing something that we're really not. And that is not true freedom. Jesus wants you to be free. He wants you to experience freedom and the abundant life he said he came to give. How does the abundant life look like? What does it look like? I believe it's freedom. Not that it's the absence of issues or problems, but internally it's like, I know Jesus. I know who I am. Don't believe the lie. Don't believe lies. Got to learn to cut them off, stop them, reject them, and live in truth. Now, the second path, the second lane I want to talk about just for a few minutes is this. Freedom is also the rejection of sin. It's the rejection of a lifestyle of sin. It's the rejection of knowing what is right and wrong and then choosing to do the right thing. James says sin is knowing what is right and not doing it. That's a pretty simple basis, isn't it? We all can understand that. I want to show you. Look what it says. Paul wrote this, for the Lord is Spirit, and wherever the Spirit of the Lord is, there's what? Where is the Spirit of the Lord in you? Right? He's here. So when the Spirit is on you and in you, there's supposed to be freedom. What can stop that freedom? What can slow it down? What can get in the way? What can clog it up? Believing lies, but also sin. Actively engaging in a lifestyle of sin can ruin your freedom, can stop your abundant life from happening, from being who you are, from discovering the true freedom in Jesus. Our sin and our lifestyles of sin and our choices that we make that choose to walk away from what? The faithful obedience to his teaching, right? That's what stops it. Let's go back to our key verse. Look what it says. Jesus said, you are truly my disciples if you what? Remain faithful to my teachings. It doesn't give you much wiggle room there, right? If you remain true to my teachings, you will then begin to know truth, and that truth you begin to know will give you freedom. Freedom from what the enemy says. Freedom from what other people say. Have you ever had somebody look at you and go, you're this person and you're that person, and say you're no good or you're worthless? And it could have been a parent, it could have been a teacher, it could have been a coworker, it could have been somebody. That's whispers from the enemy who says you're never going to make it. You're never going to succeed. You're never going to overcome. You'll never get past that. That addiction, it'll always be with you. Have you ever had somebody in your life that says you'll always be like that? That's whispers from the enemy. That's whispers from the devil. And if you believe that and internalize that, it'll start becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy. It'll happen. You've got to learn to stand up to that and say no to that. But it's just as important to look at our lives and the things we do and how we do them and not give in to the temptation to live a sinful lifestyle that's going to ruin our freedom and block our freedom. Now, I love this story. Just after Jesus said that, these guys he was talking to, the Jewish people, looked at him and go, listen, we're sons of Abraham. We have never been slaves to anyone. See, they were looking at it in the wrong terminology, right? They were looking at it through a viewpoint that was not what Jesus was talking about. They were talking about what it looks like externally. But Jesus was trying to look at internally. He said, we've never been enslaved to anyone. What do you mean we'll be free? Jesus said this, I tell you the truth. Everyone who sins, that pattern of sin, that lifestyle of sin, everyone who does that becomes a slave of it. They become enslaved to that lifestyle. When we are enslaved to sin and a lifestyle, look at it, look what it says. And a what? Lifestyle of sin, we are not what? We're not free. We're just letting the truth talk to us. We're just letting the truth reveal to us. I'm not trying to condemn anybody. I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody. Listen, I'm trying to lead you through the spirit of truth. What is freedom? You want to experience true freedom? Then each one of us has to examine our lifestyle. And if there's something in the way of that that's leading us to be enslaved by that lifestyle, we'll never experience true freedom. Paul said these words. So Christ has truly set us free. I love how he put this. Now make sure that you stay free. Don't get tied up again. Don't go back to. Don't relive. Don't redo. Don't go back to that lifestyle. One of my favorite stories is the woman who was caught in adultery. You remember that? They brought her up. She was supposed to die. She was supposed to be killed. She was supposed to be stoned. That was the rules. That was the law. She was guilty. That was it. There's no if, and, ors, or buts. She was guilty. And Jesus did his thing, and everybody kind of dropped their stones, and everybody left, and all of a sudden he looked up. There was nobody there. And you know what he said to her? Go and what? Sin no more. You're free. It wasn't just go do whatever you want. Go do it again. Go back into your lifestyle. He was saying, I have a better way. And that's the key. Whatever lifestyle you're into, whatever choices you're making, you're going, I can't get out of it. I can't get out of this. I can't get out of that. I can't. Jesus has a better way. Go and sin no more. So the bottom line is this. How do we stay free? Paul wrote, Jesus set you free. Don't go back. How do we stay free? We go back to our key verse that we started with. Look what it says. Jesus said to those who believed in him, you are truly my disciples if you what? Say that word, remain. That's it. Folks, that's it. It's not that complicated. If you want to stay free, you obey Jesus' teachings. You want to stay free, remain faithful to what he has taught. Because when you do that, it'll become truth. And truth will always lead to freedom. So there's two lanes. Don't believe the lies. The enemy's always whispering. He's always trying to tell you how wrong you are, how terrible you are, what you've done wrong. Start living in truth. And the second lane is this. Examine your lifestyle. Is there something in your lifestyle? Things you're doing, things you're seeing, things you're watching, things you're speaking, things you're taking in that is causing less than the freedom that we're supposed to experience. That's what freedom is really about. Next week, I want to take this to another step. We talked about what is truth. Today, we talked about what is freedom. Do you know what next week I want to talk about for a few minutes? It's this. Is a kingdom without a king. So many people in the church today are trying to play this, that I can be over here in the world and do the things I want to do, and live how I want to live. But over here, I want to be part of God's kingdom because I know of all the promises and I know all the inheritance and I know all the good stuff, and I want them both. Well, guess what? You can't. You can't be in the kingdom without knowing and following the King. So we're going to talk about that next week. I want to pray for you, and then I want to invite Dino and Annette to come up and just share for a minute or two. So I want to pray for you. Can we do that? Just close your eyes for a moment. Father, thanks. Thank you for your word. Thank you for your heart toward us. And thank you for truth. Now release it and guard it and seal it up in this place. That as the enemy comes, he'll want to steal and destroy this word. Hold it firm. That we'll walk this out. Each person in this place. That they'll aspire to freedom. They'll desire freedom. They'll pursue freedom. Just as we pursue truth. So I thank you. In Jesus' name. Amen.